In this video clip, I'm going to cover Activity 6 and I'm going to cover Part A, which is the input form to add a drinks machine. This is the easier form of the two forms. The second form is a little bit more complex and involves some sort of calculations and retrieving data. Well, let's have a look at the input form. We'll just read through first of all and make sure we know what we've got to do. So we've got some notes. First of all, the structure of the tables provided should not be changed in any way, e.g. do not add validation to the tables, do not change the data types. You will only be required to use TBL machine and TBL machine reading. It's a bit misleading that because we are actually going to use two other tables as well. So we've got to create an efficient interface that will facilitate database input by producing, and then A, an input form to add a drinks machine. The form should be ready for data entry. The purchase date must be present. The purchase date must not be in the future. The machine must be assigned a valid brand. Valid data should be appended to the machine table. A save message should display and the form should be cleared, ready for the next data entry. A suitable error message should appear when invalid data is being used. Before I've actually gone on to Access, I've done a quick sketch up, if you like, to plan what this form's going to be. I've done this in OneNote. You can write on your exam paper, so you could, if you find this useful, just do a quick sketch of what you're going to produce. It just helps clarify your thinking as well by planning out the form before you actually go on to Access. Here I've got some titles, vending services, machine input form, and I'm going to have some instruction to the user, data entry required. I've then got the control, which has got the machine ID. I suggest, and we'll do this, we'll just have a quick look at the tables we're going to use before we actually start, but that's going to be an auto number. We've then got the brand ID control, and for that I'm going to have two columns. It's going to be a combo box. We're going to put in a purchase date, and I'll format that or check, make sure it's short date. And then we've also got a combo box for the operator ref. And then below that we've got a button, Save Record. We need to set the form to data entry. I usually take off the scroll bars or put them to neither. I take off the record selectors and also the navigation buttons. And I've just written down there, the branch ID must be present, the purchase date must be present and not in the future, it must be in the past. And also that machine ID control, with it being auto number, I'm going to set that to enable no. We'll just have a little look at this in design view, just so I know what each field is before I start. So I'll just go to design view. So I've got machine ID, primary key, and that is auto number. Brand ID, that's just the number. Purchase date, and I've checked already that's formatted today, day, month, year, so I don't have to do that. And then the operator ref is just the number. It's worthwhile as well just having a quick look at the relationship window. We're going to be using TBL machine. That's what we're inputting data for that table. And if we just look at that brand ID, we're going to use the brand ID from TBL brand. And for the operator ref, we're going to get that from TBL operator as well. So let's start creating the form. Because this is a form that's going to input data into a table and it's based on one table, we need to use the form wizard. So create form wizard. And then we select TBL machine and we want all the fields to be selected and in the form. So next, we can leave it on columnar. Change the title of your form to FRM. Use the prefix FRM for your forms. And then some suitable name. Let's have a look at the form, open it up. we've got a very basic form there, and this is what we need to edit now to make it look more usable and use features which make using the form efficient and quick and accurate for the user. First thing I'm going to do is deal with some form properties and also improve the appearance of the form. So let's go to Design View. And we've got the property sheet up and we've got form selected. We're going to be using this property sheet rather a lot when we're creating the forms. So the first thing is, if we click on all, and then let me drag this in so you can see this. If you can't see what you want, because there's quite a lot of properties here, it's quite a good idea to click on the A to Z and put them into alphabetical order. So the first thing we need to do is data entry, yes, and that sets it up as a data entry form. We also need to take the navigation buttons off, so that's no. We need to, just scrolling down, take the record selectors off, and then the scroll bars need to be neither. I'm also going to change the background colour of the form header, so it's a right mouse click, fill back colour and select white. And I'll change the title while I'm here as well. If you want to centre a title across your form, widen it and then go up to Format and Centre. Just going to increase the size of that title a bit. I'm also going to put in the name of the form. I've put the name of the company in. I'm going to Form Design, Controls, Label. If you go into Format, I'll make that in bold and I'll just increase the size a little bit and I'll centre it. So these field names need to be a little bit more user friendly. So I'm going to put spaces in between like machine and ID, in between brand and ID. It's the sort of thing the examiner's looking for. And I'm also going to change the colour as well. Just select all the controls that I need to change the colour of and do them all in one. There we go. And go into Format. And then the colour, remember I'm choosing just from this palette here. This is what I use for the report. You need to have a house style and use a style that's the same as your report, because again that's what the examiner's looking for. Just resize these labels. There we go. Another thing that the examiner is looking for is to see if you've resized fields. I'll just pull this brand ID out. It's probably going to need a little bit bigger when you show you what I'm going to do with it, but let's bring the date in. And the operator ref, that can be narrowed down because that's only double digits. I think that machine ID, we'll leave it that size. Okay, that's better. Let's just have a look at this machine ID control. This is the one that we said needs to be enabled no. So if we go on to data, we've got enabled, and then if we click on no for that, you see it's been greyed out. That means the user can't enter anything into that control. Just have a look at this purchase date. I'll just check the format. So I've gone up to Format, and if we come back down the property sheet to Format, it's day, month, year. So that's fine. The Next thing I'll do is set up the brand ID control. We said we'll provide a combo box for this. So we click on the control, and if we do a right mouse click and change to combo box, it changes it automatically from a text box to a combo box. We need to select the row source for this combo box. Unselect A to Z here, and then it comes at the top of the property sheet. Select row source, click on the build, and we want TBL brand, and we want the brand ID, and I'm going to put the brand name in as well because my drop down is going to have 2 columns, although it will only save the brand ID. Then we click on close. It will ask you if you want to save, and the answer is yes. And we can see now we've got the combo box, and if we check the row source, we've got the selection from the brand table. Let's just change the format of this. Oh, one thing before I go on, which comes up quite a lot in examiner reports, limit to list should be set to yes, which obviously prevents the user from adding brands in the when they're running the form. I'm now going to go to format, and at the moment we've got a column count of 1. If I set that to 2, because I want 2 columns, and we also need to set the column widths as well. I think if we do this first column as 0.5 centimetre, and then the second column as 3.5 centimetres. Just have a look at this brand ID control in form view for a minute, just check it, and we'll click on the arrow, and you can see we've got the ID number, we've also got the name as well, but you can see it's not wide enough for the text, so I'm just going to go back and adjust that so it displays the whole width of the text. That's better. We can see now the whole of the name. Next thing I'm going to do is set up the combo box for the operator ref, and that's a similar process. We click on the control, right mouse click, change to, and we're going to do combo box. And if we go into data, click on the row source and build, TBL operator. This time I'm only going to put the operator ref in, but you could put the name in as well if you wanted and have 2 columns. And then we've got a drop down now for the operator ref. Let's just go and have a look at the form. That's fine so far. Go back to design view. The next thing I'm going to do is put on the button. Just make a little bit more room here. And so we're going to form design and then controls, select button, draw the button on. Put click to save the record on the button so the user knows what to do. The next thing we need to do is create the macro attached to the button. So right mouse click on the button, build event, macro builder, and OK. The first action is an if, and we're going to check that the brand ID is present. So we're using is null. And if that is null, we need a message box. Then we need an else if, not just not an else, but an else if. And this one we're checking the presence of the purchase date. So we're using is null again. So we're saying if it's null, we need a message box. So if that is null, we're going to display the message purchase date must be present. We're then going to have another else if, and this is where we're going to check that the purchase date is not in the future. Else if purchase date, if it's greater than today, and we use date function, so the date function will get the current date off the system. If that's true, we need to display a message box. So we've done our brand ID, we've checked that that's present. We've done our purchase date, we've checked that that's present. And also for the purchase date, we've made sure that it should not be in the future. It should be either today or in the past. The next thing to do is add else. So with these macros, you start off with an if, then you go else if, else if, else if, until you get to the last bit where you're going to save, and that's just an else. And after the else, we're going to do save record. We'll put on a message box. And then the other thing we need to do at the end of the macro, once that record is saved, we need to make sure we clear the form ready for the next data input for the next record. And we can do this very quickly and easily by doing a go to record. Leave the object type blank and the name, and just make sure it's on record next. Okay, quick recap. Check if the brand ID is null. If it is, we've got an error message. Check if the purchase date is null. If it is, we've got an error message. Check the purchase date is not in the future. If it is, we've got an error message. And then the final thing is to save the record. I've got a little spelling mistake there. Save the record and also go to the next blank record. And just to recap on these ifs and if else's, always start with an if on the first one. Then we use else if on any further checks all the way throughout the macro until we get to the bit where we're saving the record, and that's just a straight else. And then finally the go to the next record. Close the macro, answer yes to save it. And if we just check now on form view, and let's just check through the form, the brand IDs are shown. Let's try keying in one that's not there, or let's try leaving it blank even. Okay, the brand ID must be present, that's fine. Let's key one in that's not, let's just key in. Okay, I've tried to key in a brand ID that isn't in the table and it's come up with the items not in the list. So let's select number 1. We've got a date in. Let's just try saving one without a date. Purchase date must be present, that's fine. Let's try saving one with a date in the future. Date must not be in the future. Let's, whoops-a-daisy. Let's change that and select one in the past. And it's saved it. Just a couple of things further now before we finish. Just going back to this operator ref combo box, I just want to make sure, you see the limit to list? I didn't change that, so that needs changing. Limit to list, yes, which means the user can't enter anything in the list. And then the other thing is we've not got any instructions for the user, so I'll just put these on now. Make sure you save your form. And there, I think we've probably got everything done. Let's just check through. The form should be ready for data entry. We dealt with that with the data entry equals yes. And go to next record at the end. Purchase date must be present. We dealt with that in the macro. Purchase date must not be in the future. We dealt with that in the macro. The machine must be assigned valid brand. We dealt with that in the macro. Valid data should be appended to the machine table and a save message displayed. We've dealt with that in the macro. And the form should be ready for the next data entry. We dealt with that with the go to next record. And then a suitable error message should appear where invalid data has been used. So every time we've got invalid data, we've actually got an error message being displayed for the user. So that completes the Form A, the machine input form. The next video will be covering Form B, and that's the input form to analyse meter readings.